Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms. And these are Charter Moms chats. And we've been recording interviews, sharing, going live sometimes in the afternoons to share information with parents so that they can make good decisions for their kids about what schools to enroll their kids in and also what kinds of enrichment activities. And so this summer, we're focusing more on kind of enrichment activities and like what families can do to support their kids. Um, we've been hearing from folks in the discussion group on Facebook about what their kids are experiencing, and slightly different challenges for young kids versus teenagers. And what we hear about teenagers is that they may be feeling kind of disconnected, like going through virtual school, kind of upended their lives, and they just have a lot of questions, and they're parents are wondering like how do they help their kids get re-engaged. And so, like as our team was brainstorming about this, the person I thought of to pick their brain was Amir Samandi, and he is the executive director of Students of Service, also known as SOS, and it's a nonprofit here in San Antonio. And so I wanted to ask him about this topic about volunteering and how that can help teenagers to get re-engaged with their friends, their community, their school, their future. Um, it's a lot. It's a lot to bear on one topic, volunteering. But Amir is an expert on this, and so I'm looking forward to talking about it.
Me too, Inga. Thanks for having me today. I appreciate it. And I really like the way you framed the topic of volunteering around this kind of post pandemic aftermath. And really, it's not even post pandemic. It's endemic, right? So maybe it is post pandemic, and now we're in endemic. But the point is, it ain't going away. And so at the end of the day, how do we safely re-engage? How do we safely get back out there? And I will say that for SOS, we're a nonprofit founded right here in San Antonio. And it started when I was a teacher at a middle school, and a student came up to my desk and she asked me about a picture of the Eiffel Tower. And she asked if I could take the class on a field trip to the Eiffel Tower. And I showed her on a map where it was. And the student felt like this was something she would never be able to do. And that was that didn't set well with me. So I said, no, that it is possible. You can go, study abroad. Maybe I said, in fact, teachers can even take their students. And that's when everybody got excited and said, take us, take us. And so my wife was like, yeah, honey, you need to take those kids. And the school was like, well, liability and, district policies. And so I ended up starting SOS as a result, so that we could do things independently as a nonprofit organization. And the idea was through three pillars: learn, serve, explore. So learn about the needs of the community, learn about the world and how San Antonio connects to it. And then in the process, learn about yourself. And then go out and serve the community, go out and do acts of service. That we curate these events for students, we supervise them, and we track their hours. So we have a state of the art portal that can do all of that. And then, the final piece to it is explore, go see some other part of the world and come back and make San Antonio better. And of course, travel is a privilege. You learn to be a better leader, and just to be a great citizen. And so when you combine those three unique, pillars, it really helps a student to grow, to develop, to learn about themselves, to mature. Actually, it's life changing. So the travel is not just travel for the sake of travel; it's travel as a catalyst for change, and helping students to dream bigger and dream beyond their circumstances, whatever those might be.
Yeah, I know, and Amir, I know you have a unique background because you've studied international relations, you've worked in foreign affairs, and so and for your job, you traveled overseas, and now you can bring that perspective, and you come from like a bicultural household, so you can bring that knowledge to benefit the students, and then as you said, help them learn, serve, and explore.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for calling that out. Yeah. My background, I worked at the State Department in the past and for the U.S. military, with a master's degree from George Washington University in International Affairs. And what I noticed was there weren't a lot of people from Texas really getting involved in a lot of the opportunities that I had, whether at state or at the upper levels of the military, anything dealing with international relations. And I thought, that's really strange because we're so close to the border with Mexico. You would think we would have a competitive advantage with our youth, and we do. It's just that they haven't been exposed to some of these opportunities. And whether it's maybe they want to be a doctor, and they find out, oh, there's a way I could be a doctor and do, international medicine, or maybe I can go work for the World Health Organization, or maybe they want to be an engineer and they find out that there's opportunities to learn in Germany or Japan on engineering. So, whatever we do, I think it's clear we live in a globalized economy and society, and even the pandemic shows that you can't just hide from the rest of the world. It's certain things are just global. And so I think
Yeah.
that's the perspective we want our students to have, but also with a hypersensitivity to the fact that the biggest impact you can have is local. So get out and make a difference right here in your community. And
Yeah.
the other piece to it, and you mentioned technology and screens. I'm a parent. I have 3 sons, and I noticed too that they were, like this all the time on an iPad or on a screen. And I thought this was a cool way to get them off their screens and into the real world, meeting friends and making a difference in the process.
Yeah, what we've talked about, it's like it's not really clear, are we still in pandemic, sort of? Are we in this endemic phase, sort of?
Mhm.
Like, we're having to live with the circumstances that we're in, and and kind of looking back over the past couple of years and what impact it had on kids. And you mentioned screen time, and that's a thing we're also covering in this series. We're talking to the folks at Next Talk about
Mhm.
finding a better balance between real life and screen time. Um, but what other things are you observing? Because I mean, you work with,
Mhm.
with teenagers and young people at students of service, and in your other work. What do you observe about what young people are experiencing, and then we can talk more about, like, how volunteering can be
Sure.
kind of a remedy for that.
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Inga. I think just from the observations that I've seen with youth, um, one thing I want to sort of call out early on is they just communicate with each other differently than we communicate at my age, with my peers. And they can be in the same room. Let's say I've got 10 teenagers in the same room. It is a hybrid of using the technology to communicate and in-person looks and words at times. But a lot of times they send something to each other, then they look at each other, then they both laugh. There's just a lot of like I think for them it's more of a blend because they are tech natives. They did grow up sort of having that in their communication diet, so to speak. And so, with that being said, I want us to look at it through that lens and not through someone my age. I'm 42, so I'll just put that up. So, the way that I communicate, I'd much rather have a phone call or a conversation in person than just to text back and forth for like an hour. But that's not how teenagers today communicate. That being said, there's been a big, I think they've had to cope, right? And they've had to almost just I'm trying to think of the right word for it. I don't want to say stoicism, but kind of take a stoic approach maybe to the traumas that they've seen in the world, from um, the pandemic to, I mean, the war in Ukraine is another example, political unrest here domestically, a lot of division and disunity. I mean, even something as simple as a Thanksgiving dinner. I remember as a kid, Thanksgiving was so fun. We, eat turkey, watch football, but now people are afraid of saying the wrong thing about politics, or we're just in a societal time of tension, and the kids pick up on that. They really do. And so I think what has happened is they've sort of cocooned, a lot of young people are cocooning themselves from that and just acting like I'm good, and they stay kind of quiet. And I've seen that at school. I've seen that, there's just kind of this, but when they know that they're safe with each other, then they open up more. When they feel like they're in a safe space, they will open up. And so I think it's about getting them in person again, getting them to feel um, comfortable and safe being in groups of youth again, and starting to sort of condition people back toward community. And I think that's, I guess, if there is, one of the key benefits to SOS is we do build community, whether it's through the students or the networks of moms and dads. honestly mostly moms, but moms are just, superheroes like that. But I think they end up creating these bonds that go beyond school district. I mean, we have every school district represented in San Antonio. We have charter schools, we have private schools, we have homeschool, we have online school students. So the nice thing about SOS is it was built to be inclusive. So anyone who wants to be a part and give back to the community can.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's yeah, I want to hear more about um like, yeah, thank you for like, sharing, because I think it's easy for, middle-aged people to kind of jump to assumptions about like how kids are supposed to interact. And but it's gonna be different for their generation, but it's also we can also recognize, okay, what kind of conditions can we create that encourages them to build relationships? Because like even if it's digital, like we still want them to feel connected to people because
Correct.
it's so important for what gives life meaning. Like to lead a fulfilling life is like you have to be connected with people and feel like you have purpose.
Yeah.
And like SOS helps with that because like students are coming together with a common goal. So yeah, so can you talk more about like the benefits of volunteering, like how it helps with relationship building and a sense of community?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's been numerous studies that show volunteering is good for your mental health. Volunteering is good for your mood, and like no one ever said I wasted an hour of my life volunteering, right? So it gives you purpose, it gives you meaning to give back. It also takes you away from yourself and whatever problems you're having. For a moment, you're thinking of someone else, and you're trying to do something to make their life just a little bit better. So, those benefits are well established. I think what makes our model unique is, San Antonio is the most economically segregated city in the United States, according to Forbes. And I don't know, I think it was 3 years ago when the study came out. I don't know if that's changed, but we're still probably one of the most economically segregated cities. You don't have to have a study to know that. You just need to get in your car and drive to a few different parts of this community. And so we're really like a lot of little communities in one big city. What SOS does is try to break down those barriers and bring people together so that whether you're from the south side, the north side, the east side, the west side, the rural communities like near on the outskirts of the city or in the county, people can come together, do something to make a difference together, and maybe make a new friend. And I've seen that happen. We did our trip to Germany in 2019, and there was a student from SAISD and a student from Northside, and they didn't know each other and ended up becoming roommates, and by being roommates became like besties. And on the last day of the trip, we had a debrief session, reflection, and she got up and she said, it was wonderful, seeing what we saw here in Germany and learning about the culture and the people and the history. She goes, but one of the things that surprised me, I had to come all the way to Germany to make a new best friend from the other side of San Antonio. And you don't have to travel to make those connections. It can be done right here through the volunteering, and it often is. And so I think that right there, that community building is the key. And it really shows young people like you're not that different from somebody who lives in a different part of the city. You just haven't gotten a chance to know them, right? There may be different realities. There may be different things they see when they look outside their windows or when they walk outside on their streets. But at the end of the day, it gives people a chance to get to know each other beyond sort of just what it looks like on a map.
Yeah, well, that's a really hopeful message, and I feel like that relates back to what you said about, um, like everyone feeling like they have to have their filters on at Thanksgiving or at
Mhm.
get-togethers of, right, that, like within our own society, we need more mutual understanding and, people meeting each other who are from different walks of life. And, in the world writ large, like, we need people from different cultures to understand each other better. And so, SOS helps with that because students from different parts of San Antonio are working together, and students are able to get together on these trips and experience other cultures and just have a broader sense of you know all the many different ways that people in the world are living, and it works for them. It might be different than what we're used to, but that's their culture and it's meaningful for them.
Right, and I think too, it's like having the opportunity to serve, get in some cases, get sweaty, get dirty. We can do community gardening. We work at the food bank and we sort packages of food. This. you don't need a gym membership when you join SOS. I always tell people because you definitely keep moving, which is also good for your health. Physical activity. But when you're sweating next to somebody and depending on them, they're handing you the boxes and you're putting them on the pallet, or you're holding the tree while they're digging out the root, or trying to plant it. That kind of dependency on each other in a team breaks down all these stereotypes and all these preconceived notions that we have through the lens of, let's say, the local news, or what somebody at your school says about kids from the rival school, which like, really, in the big scheme of things, maybe for football there's a rivalry, but beyond that, I mean, you're just kids, right? And you just happen to go to different schools. So I think it allows you to see things differently and see people with your heart, more than just with you know I don't know, a
Like
superficial lens.
stereotypes.
Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah. Well, so you mentioned things like community gardening and the food bank and stuff. So can you talk more specifically about like the programs that students do through Students of Service? And also, so this is my cue to like put the website up
oh,
on the screen too. So so SOSSanantonio.org is where you get like the details of it. But Amir, I was hoping you could kind of give an overview of
absolutely.
what the programs are.
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So the way it works, like I said, we have the three pillars: learn, serve, explore. So our serve pillar alone is like, it could be its own nonprofit, because what we have there is the state of the art portal. So what you do is you can go to our website, go hover over home, and it'll say join SOS, and it's got different steps for parents versus students. But you want to sign up for our newsletter, which goes out every first of the month, and the newsletter lays out different curated, supervised volunteer events that we're going to host that month. And then, in addition to having the newsletter subscription, you want to go in and also create a portal account. And the portal account will track your hours, allow you to register for the volunteer events, actually give you badges when you earn certain levels of your hours as well. And so when you need to, let's say for National Honor Society or National Junior Honor Society, or for your church or whatever you need, scholarship applications, you can generate with a button, the click of a button, you can generate a PDF volunteer resume through our portal.
That's
So
awesome.
that all is the back end, right? And in terms of every month, what opportunities we offer. So community gardening, we tend to have on a pretty regular basis. Helping at Sam Ministries homeless shelter. So we'll go in, we learn from the folks there, why they exist, what challenge or problem they're addressing in our community, how homelessness is not the stereotypical person under the bridge, disheveled, asking for money that a lot of young people picture as homelessness. But homelessness can look like me, and homelessness can look like you or anyone else. And it affects children, and it affects families. And so our students get to see that firsthand, right? And they get to then feel empowered to do something about it and give back. There's also Help for Heroes, where we help wounded warriors and veterans. We do work with animals. So we've done work with SA Pets Alive, the Humane Society, Special Olympics we just did last weekend. You pretty much, if you find an entity or an agency in town working on any issue of need, we're there. The Texas Diaper Bank, San Antonio Food Bank, and we try to kind of rotate around who we help and what we do, so that students are exposed to the different issues that our community is facing. These are future volunteers for the food bank, or future volunteers for Sam Ministries, or any of these agencies, because any one of us, right? I mean, if I were to ask you, Inga, is there a certain cause that really calls to you more than others? I'm sure there is. What is it, if I may ask?
Well, it's clearly education,
Yeah,
and I would like like you and I are both nonprofit founders. Like that's how
yeah,
far it carried us, right? And that's how I guess like listeners may not know, but like Amir and I have gone through a fellowship together, like to learn about how to be more effective nonprofit leaders. And there's a lot involved, but sometimes like the seeds are planted
Mhm.
through, like for me, it was, I had a roommate who was very dedicated to volunteering, and for her, it was a lot of animal stuff. Like she
Mhm.
worked with different animal rescues, and that influenced me. And so then, like when she got more involved, like once she and I were about the same age, when she had kids, and I saw what she was doing in education philanthropy,
Mhm.
I came alongside and said, "What can I do to help?" Like, I'll help with the communications aspect, and then that grew into SA Charter Mom. So it's this kind of hobby that got out of control.
Yeah.
But when you talk about the benefits of like, um, it's to me like I'm grateful every day to get to do work that's meaningful. That
Mhm.
like I know it's making a difference. I don't necessarily get as much feedback as I would like because a lot of it's digital and like, but I can look at like, okay, this many people visited the website, so that hopefully they got something from it. And people will comment in the Facebook group and say, this I was able to help my kids this way. And like what SOS is doing is it's like it's helping, you know, students through volunteering, like they're able to get that feeling that they're making a difference and they can get a better understanding of what problems are out there. Because like I remember like our cohort of nonprofit leaders, like we were working on all kinds of different things, and just realizing like how much work there was to do in the community and how important it is, what nonprofits do to fill those gaps.
Well, I will say, Inga, that SA Charter Moms is doing a big service to the community because I know firsthand people who they moved here, they didn't know where to start, and you have this sort of one-stop shop where people can find so much information on the most important thing in a parent's life is your children, right? Like their future, their education, like that's your priority as a parent. So yes, it is very meaningful work, and I think SOS, sort of we offer that a piece of that what you're providing to the greater community with the schools and the education and the extracurriculars, and we're a piece of that. And when we all work together, then we can give our kids the world. We can give them a better future, and in the process, that makes the world that they're going to be adults in a better place. And I think they deserve that. I mean, we could do better, right? We could do better. You
Yeah,
look at the news, you look at the world, you look at where things are, you look at all of it. We could do so much better. And I think it gets back to what are the values that we share as human beings, regardless of anything, creed, ideology, nationality. There's certain human values that most of us adhere to, right? Decency, honesty, common courtesy. And I think if we can get back to that, and through service, you really cultivate naturally a lot of those traits. So I think that's another benefit beyond just getting service hours on a piece of paper for an organization. Like I know that that's a requirement, but I often think that students might start like, I got to do this, but then they get in, they make friends, they actually find the benefits of volunteering, and they become lifelong volunteers.
yeah, and that hopefully it helps them, build some independence. Because like if they've been like, at home or behind a screen, like, worried about getting sick or, spreading the pandemic, like, hopefully like they're at a place where, they feel like they can, maybe they're vaccinated, they can mask up or, like whatever conditions so they can get out there, and feel like they're making a difference. And then, you talked about like for like socially, like value of this in-person interaction. We can get groups of kids together. They develop these bonds and this mutual understanding. They're able to build that independence, and then they can picture themselves in their future, like what, right. So like maybe through helping animals, like then they realize they want a career related to animals,
Right.
or maybe through learning more about the problem of homelessness, maybe it makes them think more about housing policy, or they want to be architects or developers, or build more housing, or or they're interested in mental health, and how to serve the homeless or how to serve veterans. It broadens their horizons about what's out there in the world. And then hopefully, like when they do apply for college, it's not just like, well, here's my checklist of things I did, but it's more like they can tell a story about themselves,
Yeah.
right? Like this is the problem I want to solve in the world. This is why like I have these traits that will help me, right? Like for me, like I love writing is what got me into this, and writing, communicating, storytelling. And I feel like I'm able to apply that skill to a greater purpose, a purpose bigger than me, and do good with it. And that's a great feeling. I hope every kid who volunteers through SOS is also discovering things about themselves and problems that they want to solve with their special talents.
Well, that's yeah, I'm so glad you brought that up because that's exactly I have so many stories of students who've shared how this changed their life, how this helped them find their purpose. And I think, like to your point about, there is sort of this. If we're being honest, there is sort of a gamification to the college admissions process and how to make yourself look good and how to, and all that stuff. And it's toxic, to be honest. It's not helpful to young people because it doesn't teach them the intrinsic value of the good things they're doing. It sort of gives it this extrinsic like validation. Okay, the college says you did enough to be in this elite school in some cases, right? And so to your point, if you've done volunteering at, let's say, the homeless shelter, and it helped you realize that there's a need for some problem solvers in that space, and now you have this idea for, I don't know, a business, an app. You decide you want to go into public policy and be an elected official, like that could be a great thing. I feel like a lot of these kids, if we were to elect them, they would do a better job than some of the people that we've elected. So even if the college or university doesn't validate you and say, well, we're not going to let you into Princeton or whatever it might be. I'm just using them as an example, but it doesn't matter because they can't take away from you that meaning and that purpose that you got as a young person. And to have that at age 18 is so valuable because a lot of us waste a lot of time in our 20s and 30s trying to find ourselves. And I think, you can find that you can lose yourself through service and in the process find yourself, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, you mentioned about the student who wanted to visit the Eiffel Tower and then you realized how far it was. But can you think of examples of like,
Oh, yeah.
students who had like a particular goal, like, they really wanted to see this or do this and, SOS was able to help them get there?
So one of the most powerful stories that has driven me and pushed me through, 7.5 years of doing this work, and it's hard work, but I love it. It was a kid who was a drug using, at risk, like of dropping out student. She had a very rough life, not through circumstances that she could control. But yeah, she'd been doing drugs, she'd been doing self harm, she'd been running with the wrong crowd, and really was already, I think, as a freshman in high school, was already like counting down the days to when she could just drop out and stop coming. And I was her teacher, and so I had a poster up about SOS that we were going to London, and everybody leaves. The bell rings, and everybody leaves, and she stays behind. She goes, "I gotta ask you a question." I said, "What's up?" "Tell me about this London trip." I said, "Oh, you're interested?" She goes, "Yeah, I'm really into punk rock, and I want to go." And she's like, "That's where punk rock was born." And I was like, "Yeah, that is true." So SOS is about, being a leader, giving back, making a difference. You have to do service to come on our trip. And also I said, you'll have to be, a role model. People are going to look up to you. You're a leader. So you got to be passing your classes, staying out of trouble, staying off drugs, staying away from bad influences. And she's like, all right, I'm in. And so another teacher actually overheard and was like, oh, if you can pass my math class, I'll even make a donation to help you go. And so it just got everybody believing in this kid. And time goes by, and little by little, we go from failing to D's, we go from D's to C's, right? And the behavior starts, she starts feeling connected, right, to something greater than herself. And so we go. She goes on the trip, and we're standing in front of Big Ben, the House of Parliament, and I'm there, with 50 people on this trip, and I'm in charge of keeping everybody safe. So I'm just, looking at everything, checking everybody out, making sure everybody's good. She walks over, she goes, "Mr. Samandi, we did it." I said, "Yeah, we did it." She goes, "No, we're here." I said, "Yeah." She goes, "You don't understand. I did it. And if I can do this, I can do anything." Um, and she started crying. And then I started getting choked up. I was like, oh man, this is
Yeah.
big. It's a big moment. And it was that moment where a young
Wow.
person realized that she had a future. And she came back to San Antonio. She graduated. She got into college. She's in college right now, doing very
Wow.
well. And how do you put a, I mean, I don't know how you even put a price tag on that, or how you don't. It's just changing a life through service. Yes, the travel, like I said, it's not just the cherry on top. It is also a really important experience for a young person to have. But it doesn't, either one by themselves is not enough. You have to tie these things together, and that's what makes our model unique.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. I think yeah, I'm about ready to cry because that story. Wow. Um, you just, like I think there's a point in adolescence when like, kids have to realize like they have to get there on their own power. Like they can't, no an adult pushing them there isn't gonna, like they might look good on paper, but they're not really ready for independence or college or career if an adult like scheduled and planned everything for them, right? They have to find the why in themselves, and and for her to be able to do that out of, with so many things against her, that's a yeah, that's a great story. And like you said, like the local volunteering and the travel are interconnected. Like you can't really kind of have one without the other. And I think that's the power of what the model of students of service.
Hmm. Yeah, can I
Yeah.
give you one more, a quick one?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Okay, because yeah, I mean, I got so many, and there's going to be a moment I'm hoping in the near future where I can showcase a lot of these stories live and have these students tell these stories. But this one student, single mother, being he was raised by a single mother, very shy. He got involved in SOS very early, and little by little, he shocked his mom. We had an event at a movie theater, and I just sort of asked the students, does anybody want to get up and share some of their experiences? And at that point, he was in seventh grade, and he got up in front of 100 people in the theater and got a microphone and was talking about how giving back helped him grow as a person. So his mom was just like, "Oh my gosh, what a change, right?" He did his first trip to Peru, which is a huge, like, that's a big adventure. Peru is very different from, let's say, San Antonio. And that was a service trip. So he helped build a dormitory for girls who lived in the rural area and sometimes had to commute as much as a day, like a full day of commuting just to get to school. So the dorm would allow them to get 5 days of education, and stay on the school campus and then go home for the weekends. And he realized, I just have to get up and go down the street to go to school. And here are these kids my age that don't have the ability to get to school quickly. They have to have a dorm for them because there's not a school in their village. He's like, I need to take my education seriously. And I need to do something to give back. Right. And so, like, this kid has now broken every SOS record for volunteer hours. He won the State of Texas Board of Education Heroes Award for his volunteering, and he's
Wow.
about to win another award, which I can't announce yet, but it's going to be announced soon. So, just what a difference, just getting beyond yourself and realizing how blessed you are and how lucky you are to have what you have. And that's what his story, to me, illustrates.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think having gratitude is essential for having satisfaction in life because if
Mhm,
you're always making comparisons, and there's always somebody who seems like they have more, but realizing how much we do have
mhm.
is really important, and putting things in context of what's happening in other countries and what's happening on the other side of town. That's really important.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think we take for granted often our health, our families, and, like, our relationships, and we
yeah,
focus a lot more on the material, and that's not the stuff that lasts. That's not the stuff
yeah.
that, I mean, that's not what inspires.
Yeah, no, these are really, really important lessons the students are learning, and there's not really any way to like stand up and explain it to them. It's like they have to roll up their sleeves and,
Yeah,
be in these situations and yeah, understand the purpose and understand the value of their like literal sweat equity, right? Because they're
yeah, yeah,
they're
exactly.
getting dirty. Yeah,
And it's like experiential learning, right? Like, we're not giving star tests with SOS. We're not, there's no test that you have to take. The real test is for yourself. Like, do you feel like you've grown as a person? Are you giving back? Are you doing what you can to make the world a little better? Are you being the change you want to see, right? Because it's easy for everybody to talk about what's wrong with the world, but what have you done to make it better? And the kids get it almost intuitively.
yeah, yeah. Well, I feel like the small part of what I can do is amplify what folks like you are doing, so that more families are aware and more students are aware that, that students of service exists, and that, that this may be the solution to the problem. Like, so like if parents are worried about their kids and like it's like it seems like they're on their screens all the time, they're home all the
Mhm.
time. If I ask them what they want their future to be like, they don't really have any ideas. They don't have confidence that they can make things happen in the real world. That about like they may be aware of problems, because of hearing us at the dinner table talk about it or seeing on the media, like there's all these problems in the world, and they may not have any sense of agency that they can do something about it. And but we want them to have, and we're counting on them to make
Yes.
things to do a better job than what us and folks older than us have done. We really need the help.
100%. You hit the nail on the head, and I think that leads me to 2 other important things I wanna mention. The volunteering is free, we don't charge for it. We do ask that you buy one of our shirts so that we know that your kid is there with us. When we see the SOS shirt, we're like, "Okay, they're one of our students." Um, and the other thing is that, the idea of coming together, the idea of working together, volunteering together, that is so crucial to this getting past, like what you were saying with just being stuck and not knowing what you want to do. So I think between the fact that it's free and that it brings people together, it's like you can't beat it. The travel is not free, unfortunately. We do offer scholarships to help students who otherwise couldn't afford to go be able to go, but again, we provide a very reasonable price for what the student is getting in totality. If they're able, if they don't have to travel, but if they're able to, I highly recommend it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, wow, like these are great stories you're sharing, and I like I feel like I could talk much longer about it, but I do want to give folks a chance to like go explore on their own. So like
Sure.
I'm going to put the website up on the screen again, sossanantonio.org. And yeah, and you talked about this a little bit about like going to the website,
Mhm.
click on join, like sign up for the newsletter, create a portal account so that students can find out like what events are happening, in a particular month. But what advice do you have for folks who are wanting to get involved, or they could donate at the website, right, and support
Absolutely.
the travel and the programs?
Yeah, yeah. We of course welcome any financial support as a nonprofit, entirely volunteer led at this point. So yeah, any kind of contributions go to helping kids. We have a T-shirt you can buy. It helps with our scholarships. It says "Home" on the earth. You can buy it on our website. But we of course we want your students involved, and if they want to, if you just want your student to be involved, you drop them off, you pick them up. That's fine. If you as a parent want to come to the events, you're welcome to come and serve with us. And in fact, we are always looking for volunteers who want to join on the organizational side and help give back as a site leader, which means you help supervise students. And there's a process. You got to go through a background check and all that, but then you become part of our team. So we're looking for parent involvement as well. And again, it's very family friendly. So it's about bringing together, maybe you have 2 kids and they both want to volunteer, and they have friends, and you're friends with the parents, and they all, everybody just, hey, we're all going to do the diaper bank on Saturday, June 22nd or whatever it might be. And then everybody shows up, it's a way to give back, to serve, but also to build community. So yeah, we welcome everybody.
Yeah, yeah. So okay, so the website, and then you mentioned the email address, info@sossanantonio.org. That's a way for folks to reach out to the team and
Yeah.
get more information.
Any
Yeah,
questions, just send it to that email, and it'll go to our team, and we'll figure out who the right person to respond is. We also have
yeah.
all the social media, the Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, so you can follow us there, and a YouTube channel. Um,
That's a lot, man. I'm impressed. Like I've watched Susan's service kind of grow, over the years that I've known you, and like, I mean, like you're great about bringing up the technology and like growing your board, and just, and like like you mentioned, it's like it's covering such a broad section of San Antonio, right? There's kids from all the different school districts, lots of charter schools, homeschool families, virtual school families. So it's a great way for students to meet other students, other young people from other walks of life, and kind of get out of their silo or their neighborhood, because we can. I feel like that was maybe one of the bad effects of the pandemic is that our world it felt smaller, but
yeah.
so we tend to be part of a bigger world.
That's right. Yeah, I'm glad you see that because that was the intention was how do we come together? And when we come together, I'm convinced, I'm more hopeful than ever that we can address these issues that the world is facing. But it's only when we get off the couch, out of the house, and out there doing things that make a difference. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, great. All right. Well, thank you so much, Amir. And I want to encourage everybody. There's a Amir wrote a guest post for the blog too. So there's a description in the description of the video. There's a link that takes you to that. So whether you came to the video first or whether you found the blog post and then you're seeing this video embedded in the blog post, like whichever. I mean, the blog post explains about the programs and the benefits, and and I'm really grateful to have this conversation with you because um, I think that this brings it to a human level. I think that's relatable for parents and students that, we've all been through this, really traumatic pandemic experience together. But we can kind of take stock of where we're at and then be optimistic and take steps to have a more connected future with, more relationships, more sense of community and more time giving back.
absolutely. Yeah, you're spot on. And that's the remedy for all the trauma and everything we've been through is that you have the power, each of us, to do something to make the world just a little better.
Just a little bit. Every little bit helps.
Just a
Yeah.
little bit.
All
Yep.
right. Thank you so much, Amir.
Thank you, Inga.
All right. Take care.